expectation is that there have been some gains in some areas and probably
What's up, everybody?
in other areas. The part that gets so tricky.
I'm on I'm listening to Eddie's about to come on this news channel. Tara McCanahan, I forget her name on.
Cranston, Barber, and Fenton Fung firing off new salvos.
I thought I'd put it out here so
this morning,
these all could hear it.
The mayor accuses the state representative of making up fictitious names on public records to request. 2 new giant pandas are going to return to the Washington National Zoo later this year.
Oh, I like
The
pandas.
announcement
They're
from the
cool.
Smithsonian comes about a year after the zoo sent its 3 pandas home to China.
The panda's arrival is not just an exciting event, but it is proof positive of the success of our giant panda program.
It's Brandy Smith at the Washington National Zoo. From New York, a 40-year-old guy from Brooklyn is under arrest. He is accused of punching a TikTok influencer at random in New York.
What's up, Teresa?
A series of attacks.
What's up, David?
Mostly at women over the last several months. The DA says
He's supposed to come on next. I'm watching to WPRO News Talk. He's supposed to be coming on next. He's going to be interviewed. Tara Granahan.
WPRO News Time is 10:03.
How you doing, Susie? How you doing, Carol?
Sponsored by
I'm all right. Ciao.
Hi, I'm
Uncle Edwin. Yeah, I'm listening to WPRH, Tara Granahan show. Eddie Franco's about to go on there and talk about prison reform. Something about
Mercedes leases
come on,
require
still
all body
tell
work
it.
and collision repairs be performed by an authorized Mercedes-Benz collision facility. Providence Auto Body is Rhode Island's only Mercedes-Benz certified Tier 2 elite structural aluminum collision center. Hi, this is Tom Marshall.
Yeah, make sure you sub to Teresa and Charlie's channel.
Roof, siding, or windows for your home.
This is a local Providence news station over here.
Our team can
And
walk
this
you
is
through
the
that process.
lady Tara Granahan. What's up, Tommy?
Image of what your home would look like. Find out just how affordable and beautiful new roofing, siding, and windows can be with Marshall. For award-winning
What's up,
work,
Carol? How you doing? Andrea, what's up?
Reviews. Why settle for less? Get more with Marshall, and remember, we are your local roofing, siding, and window.
Marshall.
Hello, spring. It's the season of
These
new
are all the
beginnings and fresh
commercials they're
starts.
playing
And if
from
you're
the.
thinking about selling your home,
Hold on.
Awesome Solutions is here to
These are all the
buy your
local
house.
commercials. You can hear the Massachusetts and Marshalls. Yeah, it's Teresa and Charlie's channel. Give it a sub. Susie, how's Rambo doing? What's up, Dave? Yeah, Tara show's about to come right back on. She's got to let commercials play, but Eddie's going to be on, so I'm going to listen to him. I thought I'd stream it and let everybody hear it. Janie, what's up? Janie R15, what's going down?
Because at Must Home Solutions, we want to buy more.
We want to buy more.
401-326-2626. That's 401-326-2626. Or visit our website, mosshomesolutions.com.
At Tropical Smoothie Cafe, summer is our
Tropical
season. And
Smoothie
we're kicking it off
Cafe.
with a free 12-ounce Island Punch smoothie for National Flip Flop Day.
National Flip
Head to
Flop
your local
Day.
cafe on May 29th from 2 to 7 p.m. Terms and conditions apply.
Capital Fence offers commercial and residential fences and gates made with the highest quality materials and designs. Call owner Mike Rizzo at 618-4407.
Mike Rizzo.
CapitalFenceRI.com.
All right, here she's back.
From the Riverhead Building Supply Traffic Center, your local lumber, hardware, and building materials store, rbscorp.com.
Crash is gone, 195 westbound after exit 1 in Seekonk. Things are moving okay there. It is slow once again, however, westbound between the Pawtucket Avenue on-ramp and the Washington Bridge. Eastbound is pretty slow going still from 95 to the Washington Bridge.
What's up, Paul and
95
Kaiser?
northbound starts to get
MRH,
pretty heavy
what's
past
up?
the zoo. Slow moving from Thurber's
What's
Avenue,
up, black guy with a
195. Those
bat?
right lanes especially heavy, but moving through downtown Providence. Southbound right lanes are a little bunched up through the merge of 146 South, and then you've got that on the ramp to 195.
I had to Google it, and then I found it. And I'm like, oh shit, I can listen to it on through the Google thing.
Right now, traffic.
And from the Seascape Lawn Care Weather Center now, the WPRO AccuWeather forecast. I think we're going to get to
What's
the
up,
mid-70s
Beantown?
this afternoon. A little cooler than yesterday when we were in the low 80s.
I'm waiting for the
It's going to turn cloudy too as we head into the afternoon.
Eddie to
Chance of
pop on the
shower,
radio with
thunderstorm
Tara
threat continues
Granahan.
into the night. Temperatures down to about 60 degrees. Be cooler tomorrow, a little more unsettled. The shower threat continues. Temperatures mid-60s. That's gone starting Friday. Coming weekend is looking nice with temperatures both days again expected to be in the upper 70s. Across Rhode Island right now, still plenty of sunshine across the state. Our temperature here in the city is
Breathing is not good.
61
Yesterday was
degrees.
bad.
I'm
After
Bill
3
Haberman,
good
WPRO
days,
News.
we say
WPRO's
a prayer.
time
I'm going to
is
see if
10:07.
the Pitta League would cover. Putting him down. Can't do chemo. I'm sorry to hear that. What's up, Uncle Mitch? That sucks. If anything I can do, let me know. Leave a comment on one of my old videos.
4 decades plus behind bars.
Here he is.
Then released, and talks about reforming solitary confinement. What's it really like? I don't think a lot of us can understand what is it really like to live at the ACI in Cranston, Rhode Island. Well, Eddie Franco does, and he joins me right now on the Tara Granahan Show.
Call me Blondie. Anytime.
Right now, we have fallen apart. We are a mess right now, and it frustrates me when I sit with the management team here. And I got to tell you, the funny part when I say the management team here, every correctional officer feels like I feel. They'll take any chemical that they can. They'll soak a piece of 8.5 on a sheet of paper on it, and one of the common ones is actually, you buy spray to spray hornets. Well, they'll spray that on a piece of paper. They get that into the prison in a variety of different ways. And what happens, inmates are making a lot of money now. They're packaging this stuff. They're smoking it or chewing it, and it's causing them to get high. And that is one of the major problems that we're having.
All right, that's the voice in an interview I did 2 weeks ago on Friday, so almost 2 weeks ago. Union President Richard Ferruccio talking about the conditions or the environment right now, currently 2024. They were with an interim director, and it's last day or two I've heard the union is even advertising on our airwaves where they are not happy with the governor. So I spoke with Richard Ferruccio almost 2 weeks ago, and that was a part of it. And he had written a letter to the governor. He said, I haven't heard from the governor in 9 months, and things are going haywire behind bars with this interim director, Wayne Salisbury. 2 hours after that interview, the governor put Wayne Salisbury's name in to be the permanent director of corrections.
Wow.
Now, I don't know Wayne Salisbury. I'm listening to the union president. And then I started to hear from some folks that are on the inside or have been on the inside. And when I say that the governor put his name up, he's got to get Senate approval, right? So now the union obviously is buying airtime because they're trying to fight that, and they don't think the governor is listening. And they say that this particular person is a political, well, in his words, Richard Ferruccio's words, he's a political flunky, that he got fired. He had problems at the Wyatt Detention Center, which is a federal detention center. So this is the ongoing saga with leadership at the ACI, and yet, in my opinion, another state agency that is in turmoil, such as the DCYF and the DOT with the bridge debacle and all that investigation, etc. But let's just hone in a little bit, because I personally have been inside 2 prisons.
Yeah, Janie's
ACI once. To do an exclusive interview, and then the same situation at Walpole. I've told the stories. We don't have to rehash it. And, listen, that's probably a couple of hours and you're out. It's a lot different if you're there, for a couple of years, or like my guest today, Eddie Franco, who was there more than 45 years. And think about that.
48.
A lifetime. Think of what goes by in 10 years. What paradigm shifts in 20, 30, 40 years. So I want to get his inside experience.
This is going to be good.
He thinks. He's very familiar. He is out, obviously.
Carol,
living
how
his
you
life.
doing?
Did his time. We'll get the background story. The only thing I've said to Eddie Franco is you can tell me whatever you want to tell me.
Yeah,
If
48.
it's something that you don't want to tell me, that's fine. But it's very rare that someone who's been incarcerated, and I believe he spent 20% of his time in solitary confinement. So he is an advocate for reforming that.
A lot
Eddie
of
Franco joins
time in
me
sec.
on the Seekonk Supply Hotline this morning. Good morning, Eddie.
Good morning, Tyler.
Good to hear your voice. We haven't spoken. I listened to a podcast or two. I just want you to know some things that you can say on a podcast. You can't necessarily. We got to like 7 swear words we can't say. So I just want to. Podcast is fun because you can say anything you want, but we'll both be good. Sometimes I have to catch myself as well. So Eddie Franco, you reached out to me through people that we know, and I don't really know your story. I've done a little reading, but I want you to tell it. It's much more interesting from your words. You were in the system for that long, but do you mind taking it back to where you were born and brought up and how you kind of became a product of the system?
Well, all right, Tyler. This isn't about me. It's about the guys that are locked up in the cages.
Well, we got to know who you are and how you got there.
All right. I've got about 48 years within the Department of Corrections. I was banished and exiled to other prison systems 5 times and voluntarily transferred throughout the country to Connecticut, Oklahoma, Leavenworth, Kansas, Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, and Stateville in Chicago, Illinois. And just for being a pain, a thorn in their side. And I got back into the system. I forced them to judiciary matters in Chicago to force them to bring me back in 2014. And I discovered all these changes within the policies, rules, and regulations in the Department of Corrections that were totally absurd and in violation of federal court orders. And well, I was a jailhouse lawyer for about 40 years, and I did get myself out. I was doing 120 years to serve, and I got back in the court, and I convinced the court to take back 85 of them years. So, and then I got out on July 1st, 2021. I've been out here advocating to give the guys in the joint a voice.
Well, that's a heck of a story. Just in those, 20 seconds, you were given 120 years to serve. Was that all together for one situation, or was that compiled, like, say you violate parole and then it kind of stacks up?
No, it was for robbery. I went to trial. They asked me they offered me a plea bargain of 60 years, and I said, well, why would I take 60 years? That was a life sentence. I would still die in prison, and so I went to trial, and I was convicted, and they gave me 120 years for basically not cooperating with the FBI, and so they were very vindictive, and they doubled the plea bargain. They gave me 120 years of sentence. No suspended, no probation.
Wow. So how old were you when you went in?
The first time?
Yes.
Well, there was a riot in the training school in 1968, and the state police came there, and they quelled the riot, and they took me out of the room. I was locked in the cottage, and they put me in the backseat of their car, and they dropped me off at the front door, maximum security. No judge, no court hearing, basically child abuse in today's standards.
Yeah.
And so I was put in maximum security men's prison in general population of 15.
15 years old.
Yeah.
Wow. Things were different back then. When you say, not cooperating with the FBI, is that the clinical or legal term? You weren't going to rat anybody else out?
Yeah, and when the absurdity of it is when I went in and I fought for my sentence reduction to prove that legally and constitutionally the sentence was illegally excessive. The only argument that the prosecutor had during the hearing was that
I have no remorse, and they read my statement and my sentence that I refused to cooperate with law enforcement. So, I mean, that was, I mean, yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't.
It just continues. So you go in at 15. Was that for the attempted robbery?
No.
Oh.
I got out after 15. I spent my 16th birthday in there, and I got out, and I was running the streets, and I got waived out of family court 3 more times, and then I went to trial on them. And basically, throughout the 70s and up to the 90s, I did 20 years, and I got out in 90. And then I went back in 93 for the robbery, and I went to trial, and that's when I got the 120 years, and I got out in 21.
Was the bulk of the what you were accused of because of having a gun on you? It wasn't death resulting, right?
No.
There was no human life loss, but it was, criminal robbery charges and weapons. Is that correct?
All right, Tyler, under society standards, I'm down. They have me classified down as a violent person. I mean, I ran the streets, and I do what I did to survive, and.
Because you were a kid and kind of out on your own, weren't you? Like going from house to house and
yeah, and foster homes. I was a product of the state. I grew up within the state system.
Yep.
From the Children's Center, 610 Mount Pleasant Avenue. I hit all the cottages throughout the years and foster homes, and but it's not about me. It's about the guys in the cages.
Understood. I just don't want people to, if they have never heard of you or they never read it, because you've written some publications and you've been out there trying.
All
to
Eddie cares
for
about is the
reform.
people in jail.
As you said, you were a jailhouse lawyer. You were able to crunch down on the books while you were behind bars. But when people hear somebody spent 48 years in prison, they're going to think you're some kind of a serial killer. And that's not what we're talking about. I'm not excusing anything that you may or may not have done, because I wasn't there. But once you get in the system, it can really be an evolution of pile-on. You have admitted, I've read some articles that you said, listen, I didn't follow the rules when I was out, and I didn't follow the rules when I was in. And so you had a reputation of, not following the rules. We can put it at that. But when you call yourself a jailhouse lawyer, and I've read that you took over the law library as recent as 2014 because
built it.
And right, I mean, you were able to. They let you. You were able to help other people. Fight the charges that they may or may not have been legit. You were trying to help people get paroled. What did it entail?
Well, when I got locked up in awaiting trial, they came to me then in intake in 1993, and they asked me if I would help them get things. I think Rhode Island DOC had a federal court mandate to get the intake awaiting trial section law library under constitutional guidelines.
Yep.
And that's when they came to me and they asked me if I would help them do that. But I was the first person they classified as this new category that was called SRG, Serious Risk Group. And they told me I couldn't. They took my job at inmates that I felt that would be productive in the law library. And then basically for that, I got shipped out of state to Chicago for 14 years. Well, when I came back, I told the law library. They came to me though.
Right.
I was helping the guy, and a captain called me to the rear hall. I was back from Chicago for about maybe 2 months. He said, Eddie, I need to do me a favor. I said, what? He said, can you take over the law library? And initially I said no. And he said, okay, so let me explain why. Because it is a good job, as a law clerk. He said, no, Eddie, you don't know me no explanation. I said, yes, I do. As a matter of respect, that if I take that law library job, then I'm obligated to help people that I despise, because that's my job description. and because around population, you have some characters in there that were never allowed to be in general population back in the day. But and I just my circle of friends were very small, and I did not associate with these type of characters. And I said, and I'm obligated to help them in the law library. He said, I understand. I said, okay. So about a month later, he came back to me. He said, Eddie, let me ask you, if I tell you you don't have to assist those people that you despise in law library, you still take the job. I said, so you're explaining to me that if somebody comes to me and tells me, they want some help, and I tell them, get out of my face, and they go crying to the officer in charge of the law library, and he says, I have to help him. I said, I'll just tell him to call you. He said, yeah. I said, okay, I'll take the job. So I took the job, and I reorganized the entire law library in maximum security.
So we're speaking with Eddie Franco, who spent 48 years.
He wouldn't work with. He wouldn't
bars,
help rats or
huge chunk of
pedos.
it at the ACI. And you said your last 20 years, you behaved. You were able to crunch down and look at things legally, and you got your sentence reduced. You were hit with 120 years to serve, and you got 85 years knocked off, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Eddie, I want to talk about. You said you've told people in the past that you've spent about 20% of that time in solitary, and you call it torture. No matter how you want to spend it, it's 23 hours alone, and you called it torture. And I want to. That's what you work on now that you're out and not behind bars. You're out living your life. You did your time, and if you could hold, and you have time, right, that you can spend with me today. I want to really hear, because people don't know this. They have no idea. They watch movies. They just don't know, and I'm wondering if it's even worse than what the movies can, get away with. So Eddie Franco, I have to take my commercial breaks. If we can put Eddie on hold, we'll come back. He's got to be one of the longest running inmates to serve time here in Rhode Island. I know of one other person who's had the longest running time without able to get parole. But Eddie might take the cake as the longest running. So we'll come right back with him. It's 10:24.
Yeah. Dean was right, Andrea. He says Dean Wilkinson mentioned that Eddie was one of the top to fight for the conditions of the people and such. Yes, he was. Yes, he was the one to get all that changed. And when he was explaining to her that he didn't want to, he told the warden, "Yeah, I'll work in the library," but what he didn't say on there is, "I'm not going to deal with or help pedos or rats. I won't help them types of people." And then they made a deal with him, like, "All right, if you don't want to help some weird pedo or some weird rat, you don't have to." So he took the job. He built that whole library. He's a real smart guy. Real smart dude, and he helps a lot of people, helps a lot of guys in the can. Matter of fact, the librarian in prison right now is a real good dude that was Eddie's assistant while he was in the library. What's up, Scottish Dad? What's up, Payne McBain? Fallen Kaiser, what's going on? Yeah, this is the Rachel Granahan show. It's on WPRO. It was going to happen yesterday, but for some reason they didn't. I don't know what happened, but I didn't think I'd be able to do this, but I Googled the show, and then I realized I found it, and I said, let me stream it so it can be on YouTube. Hey, what's up, Co-Train? What's up, Cheech Rhino? They're on hold. They get put in a commercial, but it's a radio interview with Eddie Franco and Tara Granahan in WPRO Providence. How's anyone who helps? Cases. Yeah, he helped a lot of people. I'm waiting for Shy Hooker to call me tomorrow. He should be calling in. I put some scroll on his card so he can call me. Hopefully, he can get more than like a half hour out so I can let everybody talk to him on here. He's been wanting to do that.
Plus 4-piece nugs, junior fries, and a small soft drink. Wendy's Biggie Bag
Oh,
hits every
fuck
time. So stop by
Wendy's.
and grab your ride or
Little
die.
redhead.
Best price participation may vary.
Little ginger. And this is WPRO News Talk. What's up, Trop? It's going to be 76 today. I think she's back now.
This is the Tara Granahan Show
Yeah, it is.
on News Talk 99.7 FM and AM 630
James, what's up, bro?
WPRO.
Continuing my conversation with Eddie Franco, who spent 48 years behind bars and 20% of that in solitary confinement. And Eddie now he's trying to reform, make some kind of reform in solitary confinement. I also, Eddie, want to talk to you about the current leadership. There's a switchover happening, and I think you heard the intro. And if you have enough time, I would like to spend the next half hour with you as well. I know we only conversed on messaging on social media because I wanted to hear you in your own words. That's how I like to do things. But Eddie, in a nutshell, you've described in the past being in solitary confinement. There's no other way to say it than it's torture. You stand by that?
Yes, it is torture. It's in its simplest form. I've spoken to Brown University twice. I've spoken to Providence College. I've testified before numerous committees down at the State House and the Judiciary Committee in both chambers. I've spoken at public functions throughout the state on solitary confinement, and I've spoken and I met the director down there, and the acting director, Wayne Salisbury. And what I what I like to zero in on is the interview you did with Richard Ferruccio.
Yep.
The union
President
of the Brotherhood of Correctional Officers. He told a lot of falsehoods, used scare tactics. He told lies.
Who? Dan?
And
No. Bedoti?
basically, it's just that he told half truths. And solitary, he did the interview with you, and he did the interview with the Matt Allen show. Okay?
Yeah. Yep.
And basically they were the same interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And
you want to talk about what you know, what you've been through, and how you see things currently. So that's what I want to hear too. That's what I want to hear from you. So again, we have this clock that we have to stick to and do business and do news headlines.
Yeah,
I know. So have some patience with me. Eddie Franco, we're going to just hang on to him. We're going to come back and hear what he has to say. He just used some heavy words, heavy thoughts that he thinks the union president was not giving the truth.
Yeah.
And he has his own truth. So we're going to come back with Eddie Franco. It's 10:30 from the Trusted Choice Insurance Agency.
No, Eddie's right. That guy was dead wrong. Eddie knows more than that. And talking about Trump too, I guess. Yeah, Herschel. Dan Bedoti? No, I know a Dave, but the last name's a little off.
Former president.
I do know a kid, Dave, from Silver Lake with a similar name. He's a good dude. But who is Dan by Deondi? I don't know.
He also produced, among other things, $1 Million Baby. Burt Reynolds, The Longest Yard, also helped create the Hogan's Heroes TV show.
Hogan's Heroes.
94.
What's up, Ian? We're listening to Eddie and Tara Granahan's news interview on WPRO Providence.
Back to the 70s Friday into the coming weekend. WPRO News time.
Yeah, Herschel. Yeah, I don't know who that is. Where'd they say they know me? Or is it a channel or something? Oh, InfoWars, former wrestler. Yeah, I don't know him.
Street heading to the Washington Bridge. Westbound looks good though. Delay free right now from the state line all the way to the
Oh no, I don't know.
95 northbound access road.
I don't know. I liked wrestling when I was a kid. I know a lot about 80s wrestlers, but once the 90s hit, probably I stopped watching it when I was like 12. Soon as Papa Shango put a spell on the Ultimate Warrior, it was time for me to leave. My grandmother loved it, though. My grandmother used to hate Ted DiBiase. She called him a poor excuse for an Italian. She hated him. She's like, look at this arrogant son of a... She hated him. My grandmother loved wrestling. Little old Italian lady, born in Italy, just loved wrestling. Claudio, what's up, buddy? I'm listening to Eddie Franco and Tara Granahan on the Tara Granahan show. Sharon, what's up, my friend? How's it going? Just listening to a radio show here with Eddie Franco's on it. Oh, he's from Rhode Island? Yeah, I don't know him. Yeah, I don't know. Cash up front. Sounds like Josie's cousin.
We're here to help in any way we can.
Listen.
Buy all types of houses, rundown houses, distressed houses,
English guys on there. I mean, I was just playing some cricket with Josie. Wow, they do have a lot of commercials on these radio shows.
Contact Moss Home Solutions today and take the first step towards a hassle-free sale.
There's Josie's friend.
At Moss Home Solutions, we want to buy more.
Call us now at 401-326-2626.
Shouts at the news, what's happening in the world. It must be funny, Scottish Deb.
Visit our website, mosshomesolutions.com. Thank you for flying for Rhode Island today, folks.
Oh, he's got.
If you look out your left window,
Thank you for flying with Rhode Island, folks.
The traffic backed up to
I sound very creepy.
Let's all spare a thought for those poor souls
as we smoothly cut open someone's liver. This guy sounds like a nut.
Appreciate you flying easy and local from Rhode Island
Del, what's up?
Green International Airport. Why just fly when you can fly RI?
Well, you can fly all right. Why fly there when you can lose a kidney? You can wake up in a tub with ice and your kidney will be gone and sold in Pakistan. You might wake up with a third ear. A lot of commercials. Oh, Task Afford. My friend used to buy Shepherds off these people, German Shepherds. Governor McKee. Governor McKee was caught naked at a fucking Friendlies at 4 a.m. No explanation why. The Wyatt. Gang.
Is this really the kind of person we want running our prisons? Rhode Island deserves better leadership. Paid for by the Rhode Island Brotherhood of Correctional Officers.
Miss Jean this morning? Check out the podcasts at 99.7 WPRO.
You missed Jean this morning? Check out the podcast.
Sponsored by DAI. Fire, water, smoke, and hull damage. DAI does that. Don't DIY it. Call DAI for 20.
Sock and Otsit, baby. Not many people know what Sock and Otsit is. Here it is.
Roman Jewelers, boy, they are tried and true. I'll tell you,
She's
you're looking
back.
for some extra cash and you want to maybe plan a week down at the beach, or you want to pay down some bills, make an extra mortgage payment. Go around the house. Roman Jewelers, they want you to sell all your unwanted gold.
Yeah, they
silver,
want your
diamonds.
gold.
They'll buy your antique and estate jewelry, things you have lying around the house. You don't wear them anymore. You're not sentimentally attached to it.
How do
Hang
you
on
know?
to grandma's ring, of course, but go for the gold that you don't wear anymore. Because you're going to get top prices, record high prices. Gold went right back up again. So that's a little news bulletin for you. It dipped. Now it's right back up again.
Good.
So go for the gold. They'll look at your silver-plated flatware, hollowware, pewter
Oh,
items,
God.
watches. That could be a tea set, serving platter.
They got to do all these
champagne ice bucket that's been
commercials.
sitting in the basement or up in the attic forever. Take it to Roman Jewelers. See Vlad.
Go to
at
Roman
He's got a great,
Jewelers.
comfortable atmosphere. Lovely showroom.
Very nice showroom. Very comfortable.
1000 Reservoir Ave in Cranston, and get top dollar for all the things you're not wearing or using.
There you
And that's
go.
Vlad. And he says, you know what, if you want an appointment, you can have one. Just call me, 946-4850.
Call her now.
946-4850.
Sell Hawk and
Roman
Grammy's
Jewelers,
wedding ring.
1000 Reservoir Ave in Cranston.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Put.
Rhode Island born and bred. Tara Granahan on News Talk.
There we go.
99.7 FM
Get back to the
AM
show.
630 WPRO.
to my conversation, I always say there's two sides to the story, and then there's something in the middle that, if Nick
Conjuring
Flanagan, my
video
producer, and I got
masters?
in a car accident, and I said, "Did you see that car cut us off?" And he said, "No, I thought you didn't stop for the red light." We're in the accident. We have two different versions. But when you're living the life behind bars, as my guest, who's I thank him for holding over on the breaks here, because we have to take our breaks. Eddie Franco is on the line with me still. You want to talk about solitary confinement, and you want to talk about what's currently going on now in 2024, just for folks that are getting in their car now, or they're flicking on the radio now. Eddie was telling us that he spent 48 years in prison. He now speaks about reforming solitary confinement that he has said is torture. And he got into learning about the law while he spent all that time behind bars. It is a fascinating story. You know that the guards would tell you a different story maybe, or they might add more to what you were doing back in the day, but I'm hearing from you right now today. So you wanted to continue your story. We just heard another ad. And
Yes.
there was a press
Yes,
release.
we did.
Yeah, the press release came out right when I started to talk to you at 10 o'clock. The union, which is the Rhode Island Brotherhood of Correctional Officers, has launched radio ads to inform Rhode Islanders about McKee's troubling corrections nominee. That's how they describe it. The governor is standing by Wayne Salisbury. What do you know about him, Eddie? Were you there the time that he was there?
Yes, I was.
Okay, go ahead.
And I've had numerous conversations with him down at the State House. I've talked with his administration appointees over the phone about the concerns of the guys in the cages today. And I testified directly after him at hearings in both chambers. And while I was waiting for you, that last segment, I heard that ad
Yes.
paid for by the union. And now I understand Salisbury's position. He can't come out the way that they're coming out. So let me make it clear. I endorse the governor's nominee, Wayne Salisbury. And most of the guys in the joint do. I get phone calls for maximum security, medium security, minimum security, and I talk to the inmates. And I've heard him testify that solitary confinement is correct. It's all your senses get affected. Your sight, your smell, especially your sleep.
Sure.
The loneliness and deprivation of all your senses. And he said right out, I'm going to change this culture, okay? And the courts have, I found out throughout the decades, always reflect the pulse of society. And what Ferruccio is saying with his 40 years experience, he's determined to remain in the 6th and 7th century of archaic, barbaric, and inhumane treatment in solitary confinement. And he complained about the director changing where the guys can't be in solitary confinement for 365 days for a year at a time. Let me make something perfectly clear. The director didn't do that. Federal courts are doing it. It's been arbitrated by an individual named Richard Piper, who's in maximum security. 55 years ago, Judge Patine of Rhode Island Federal District Court, 2 hearings and arbitration on both sides relating to a lawsuit. Morris versus Travisano, about the conditions, all the conditions in dealing with prison life, your visitation, your ventilation, your recreation, your classification, everything, solitary confinement, everything, sanitation, everything. And it was mandated in federal court over 55 years ago. And the court then said you could only lock up a guy in solitary confinement for 30 days.
Wow.
And while I was in Chicago during the early 2000s, about 18 years ago, the director then under Rhode Island General Laws 425610 felt under the powers of the director, he had the right to just vacate those rules without court approval. Even though this consent decree came out of federal court, with Judge Patine. And so inmates kept trying to fight it in the court, and the state courts kept bouncing it back and forth to federal court to state court to federal court, and it was very frustrating for the guys in the joint because guys were getting a year or more in solitary confinement. And then Richard Piver, God bless this man, he finally got into federal court with Judge McConnell at Rhode Island Federal District Court, and McConnell dismissed it, and Richard appealed it to the First Circuit Court of Appeals, and they granted the remand and sent it right back down to Rhode Island District Court for further hearings. And Judge McConnell held the Department of Corrections a contempt of court. It was in headlines and everything. It has nothing to do with the nominee for director, Wayne Salisbury. And so these hearings have been in arbitration in federal court with the parties, with the ACLU and other people for the Department of Corrections lawyers. And they're ironing out what the standards are today, not only in Rhode Island, but throughout the country, on what torture is defined as. And so Mr. Ferruccio, he wants to maintain that all his tools, he said, well, you're taking the tools away from the correctional officers. No, you're not. What tools?
Yeah, what
you're
tools?
Working in a prison. Are you serious? What do you think you're working? You expect it to be utopia? Come on, it's a culture within it. And here's what really, really upsets me. He's saying that all these deaths, and he's insinuating this, is due to some K2 drug. What an insult to the families of these dead inmates that and these suicides.
Okay, so you're saying it's got nothing to do. So he was saying I've never heard of things like spring raid, to kill bugs on a piece of paper and either eat it or smoke it. Because I said, how are you smoking in prison? And I didn't even realize that you can't even smoke cigarettes in prison now for a long time.
Yeah, for a while.
My audience did, and they were all texting me saying, "What? No, you can't. I haven't been able to smoke in a long time." But getting high off the raid and bringing drugs in, you listen. You have your own story to tell here. So.
It's scare tactics.
Yep.
Here's what it is.
He's right.
The Department of Corrections Union has union negotiations coming up next month, and he's swearing up and down that his opposition to Wayne Salisbury has nothing to do with union contracts, and yes, it does, and I'll tell you why. Because in the state of Rhode Island, no correctional officer can work wards. They can work 4 consecutive shifts, 8 hours. And some of them may make over $200,000 a year.
Wow.
Now, past administrations also and past governors, but here's where they messed up. Years ago, they agreed to this negotiation in arbitration. So the state is stuck with that condition of officers working quads. It is the only state in the country where a correctional officer can work quads. Now, look at it from a fellow officer's point of view, even though they won't. You know how dangerous it is for another officer to work side by side with the officer that's working 4 consecutive shifts?
Yeah.
Well,
and how about from the inmate's point of view?
Yeah.
I knew any officer that I ever knew that even was working a double shift, I would never go ask him any type of request for a grievance form or a slip for inmate accounts or anything, because I know they're going to tell me no.
Well,
they're going to be in a bad mood, from working the double overtime. But in Rhode Island, they can work 4 consecutive shifts, only stay in the country. And they know this is going to come up in negotiations next month.
So listen, I think
refuses,
Let him
go ahead,
finish.
finish your
Wayne Salisbury refuses to be told what to do by the Brotherhood of Correctional Union. It's as simple as that.
So if I were going to play
And I
devil's,
want the people in the state of Rhode Island to know it.
okay, now Eddie, if I were to play devil's advocate, and I can already hear it in my own head, the union would be saying, "Hey, listen, Wayne Salisbury, according to them, has eased up on some of the punishment when people act up behind bars." They would say, somebody has already said, well, Eddie wasn't, and you've already said you acted up, you did your punishment. And however it all worked back in the day. But I think we can both agree that there's a lot of politics involved in the criminal / justice / prison
Obviously.
system. It's a lot of politics.
I'm going to tell you main politics, okay? But Ferruccio did not tell you that in December of 2019, the Rhode Island Board of Elections fined him over $1,000 for illegal campaign donations for 3 consecutive years.
Wow.
With the PAC, the union PAC donated to every on both sides of the aisle, to every politician in the state of Rhode Island to their campaigns. Okay? And Ferruccio got fined for allowing it to happen.
See, Eddie
All right.
knows this shit.
Fired or fined? You said fined? Fined.
Yeah, he got fined over $1,000.
All right, that's probably documented
Board of
somewhere.
Elections in December 2019.
So I'm thinking that you guys are not ever going to be best friends. And I get that.
Listen, last time I met Richard Ferruccio was last month at the State House.
Listen.
Yeah.
I was sitting in a chair, and I was just down there touching with, I see him all the time down there. He came to shake my hand, and I looked him in the eye. I said, I ain't shaking your hand because I ain't never liked you. What he did on these 2 shows is disrespect.
Yeah.
That the low ball that he's playing
Amen,
on
Eddie.
behalf of the union is totally absurd with these scare tactics.
Yeah. Yeah, Eddie fucking got him good.
This
Yeah.
man, here's what he did last year before, I forget if it was the Senate or the House Judiciary. In the formerly inmates that were testifying, he violated DOC policy, rules, and regulations, got all their disciplinary records, and he submitted them to the members of the judiciary committees, which is against the law. And still, it hasn't been determined how he's going to be punished for that. But he went even further. There was a citizen named Patrick Gaines from Jamestown that was testifying. If Ferruccio threatened him in the hallway, he told him, I looked up your house.
No, so I can't do I want to hear from your side of things, but I can't do allegations because I wasn't
telling
there.
the truth.
Why? You listened to him against Salisbury.
Yep, there you go, Eddie. Good.
Yeah, he's on the record and you're on the record. I'm worried about me saying, if threat, one thing is to say threaten. You know what I'm saying? If I wasn't there, didn't hear. Those are your words, and I get it.
Do it at the Judiciary Committee.
Okay.
It's on the record.
Yep.
All right.
Eddie Sharp, lady.
He testified to it before the Judiciary Committee that he felt threatened by Ferruccio. You can see it in the Judiciary CCTVs.
Okay, understood. But here's a question that's coming from one of the listeners because people are fixated on listening to the story here, and I'm sure it can vary from situation to situation. But people are asking when you talk about going into solitary. Somebody who called in and said, or they texted in, what transgressions, what do you have to do to get a prisoner into solitary?
Well, here's the thing. like I'm saying, Salisbury has nothing to do. He's just doing the initiative to get ahead of the lawsuit coming down from federal court. Now, I testified down at the State House about a bill to reduce the solitary confinement and I spoke to many members in both chambers and their offices, and the majority would say, well, we know about this litigation going on in federal court, so we're holding back on it. So now it's closer to coming out. There's only a couple more issues that need to be decided before it gets handed out in federal court. But has nothing to do with Wayne Salisbury. He's going to have to do this by federal court standards, by constitutional standards.
Yep.
Now, before you could go to solitary confinement, just having your T-shirt not tucked in.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, see, there's a residual effect of going to solitary confinement.
Yep.
Under Rhode Island law, every day you do in solitary confinement, your sentence gets extended that day. So if I do 15 days in solitary confinement, my sentence gets sentenced 15 days that I have to do in prison.
Yep.
So to the union, that's job security. They want to keep those beds filled in solitary confinement.
Yep. Good.
If you catch my drift, because they're at war with the administration for staff shortages.
Yes.
It's time.
Listen, you got to admit, there's problems. There's problems if you can't recruit people to do the job, even, right? How quickly does that go through the cells, and how the inmates figure out pretty quickly if you're short-staffed, or I mean, you just ran down their schedules and what they are, allowed to do and not allowed to do. I'm talking about the prison guards, and it's got to be a job that
I want to make something. I want to make some. I forgot at the beginning to make something perfectly clear. My brother and sister were correctional officers right here in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
My sister worked there for 20 years in the men's division, and my brother worked 15 years in the men's division. So, and me and my father, we both did time. So there's a balance here.
But your brother and sister were guards. I didn't know that. That's pretty fascinating.
Yes, they were.
I can do another segment with you if you can hold.
Absolutely. I can do another week.
All right, hold on.
Fucking Eddie, man.
I know. I want to talk about when you got out too. Like I can't imagine missing that chunk of time. And I know you had a lot of involvement, I'm sure, with family and friends and all of that. But the whole idea of society changing and things shifting.
But see, I want this to be about.
I know. But how about what do I want? I want to hear you're fascinating. I want to hear a little bit more about you too. So we'll both be able to get what we want if you want to hold on. Eddie Franco is my guest. It's 10:55 right now.
Well, you see Eddie doesn't want to talk about himself. All he cares about is the people in jail and other people. He has a big heart. And see how sharp he is? He's as sharp as a fucking whip, man. And he knows his shit. Like this guy, literally, he was a jailhouse lawyer. Like he could go up there and argue cases. He's smart as a motherfucker, this guy. Eddie's sister was actually the deputy warden. Yeah. He had his brother and sister. Yeah. I like when she tried to say, no, I don't want nobody saying allegation. He shut her right down. He's like, nah, this is facts. He went to shake Eddie's hand. Eddie wouldn't shake his hand. Good for him. Eddie cares deeply about those people in there. And even like I said, people break the law, they go to jail, but you don't torture people when they're in jail. Solitary confinement like that is fucking cruelty. That's cruel. That's torture, man. Yeah, it's public record. Yes, Eddie was right. He knows what he's talking about. He's as sharp as a whip, man. Nicholas, what's up, buddy? Craig, what's going on? Because you're from Rhode Island, Bones, right? Are you the one who told Eddie about my channel? Because I think I know who you are, if I'm not sure or not. You're around my age, I believe. What's up? Time stops. Yeah, it sucks. Just imagine, like these guys did a long time. These guys like Eddie, Dean, those guys did a long time in jail. But he helps people out big time. Eddie, and he's getting the word out, making all the shit public record too on here. I googled the thing and I found it, and I was like, you know what? Let me stream it up here so I can have it on YouTube. Maybe in about a few days, I'll have someone maybe take this audio and put like some pictures in it, you know? So instead of them just watching this black screen, put a bunch of pictures up. I'll ask Eddie if he'll let me put some of his prison pictures up of him and his football team. Because, you know, he won 4 championships in a row. And, yeah, he did federal time and an intake. I don't know how many years he did out in the feds because they shipped him out of Rhode Island and threw him in the feds for a while. But he had a football team. They won 4 championships in a row. He was a quarterback. And his team, good job, 10 years. Oh, 10 years over there. Thanks, Big Bones. Thanks. All right, so 10 years he did out in the feds. Yeah, he had a championship football team. They won 4 championships in a row. 1 year they went undefeated, and the core of their team stood together. Like Eddie is the quarterback. He had his 2 wide receivers, his running back there for his 4 years. They won 4 championships in a row. I think it was in Lewisburg. They were the championship team in Lewisburg. To do even 2 weeks. Listen, I was only in jail for 7 or 8 days. I don't know if I was in there 7 or 8 days or 2 weeks. I forget. But even that sucked. Don't get me wrong. I've seen a lot of my buddies and intake and shit. It was good to see some people. But losing your freedom, being told when to eat, when not to eat, that sucks. You know? Sucks. So imagine, like, someone doing all them years, yeah.
50 years combined experience. And they're here. They're here to solve all of your residential and commercial roofing needs. You can have peace of mind knowing that Roof Masters will
she's
get
still
the
doing
job
the
done
commercials.
Professionally
At
and
Lewisburg
efficiently.
was
Now, when you call them
the
for a free
football
consultation,
team
a
where they
certified
had
inspector visits you
him in a
that
draft.
day. If you pick the phone up today and say, you know,
Yeah, something like that. What did he tell that story on Angel's channel?
I think it's I've got a leak or I've got a missing shingle or 2, whatever it is. You don't want anything.
Yeah, they had the team. See, I wish they had that on recording, man. I was like, too bad they didn't record those football games because I love sports and like watching like sandlot leagues or just people playing football, like disorganized game, all that. So I just love watching that shit. I wish I had a bunch of videos of like any kind of softball, baseball league in prison. I don't care what prison it was or whatever. I would watch those baseball games. I would watch those games and get into them. It was pretty fascinating stuff.
Incredibly, I was surprised how affordable. Call them 401.
A lot of commercials.
7008.
Let's see how much the charge I got on here. All right, we're good.
Every single day.
She wants Eddie to tell his life story.
I have a few things I want to talk about. Eddie Franco has a few more things he wants to talk about. So if we can hang on, get all our headlines. Busy day. The judge now instructing the jury ahead of deliberations about the case against Donald Trump, the hush money trial.
Let 45
busy times
go.
around here. Stay with us. It's 11 o'clock.
WEAN FM Wakefield Peacedale from the Paul Massey One Place Studios. News, conversation, and analysis. This is WPRO.
I can't check that right now.
A Cumulus Media station.
Richie. Yeah. I'm listening to Eddie now. WPRO, he's doing a great job. Yeah, Richie. We got him on too. We got him on too. Yeah, he was doing a good job on there. I like when he told the story where, like I said, the guy went to shake his hand. He wouldn't shake the guy's. I don't blame him.
Sources close to Trump's legal team is look, if the jury begins deliberating today, which we know they will, and say that we learn that there's a verdict rather quickly, they don't believe that votes in their favor, if you will. That means that they've come to a conclusion quickly, and that, in their view, would most likely be.
Like I was saying, I might have one of my buddies do me a favor and put a bunch of pictures up. So when people watch this in the future, they don't see a black screen. They can see maybe pictures of Eddie when he was younger and his ball team or something, I'll ask him. I don't want to put any, even though he showed the pictures on Angels, but I still don't want to put them up without asking.
I do think they should come back.
See if you could last night after Chamberlain, I mentioned his name. What was he giggling? All giggly? All dewy like? Well, what did Colonel Frank Slade say? I mean, he's me sweat. She's this little hot nurse out of Omaha. It's all dewy like. We used to put together basketball, softball, lifting teams. Oh, really? That's pretty cool, Jason. Together basketball, softball, and lifting teams. Yeah, I must make time go by. I'm sure if I ever, God forbid, if I ever did time, I would have played sports all the time too. I would have played sports all the time. I can't click on that right now. Profile something.